Yo, what's up, guys? All right, so today I want to talk about antennas and if there's a point where antennas can be too big. And I thought about it, and there's been some interest I've seen with like the biggest Yagi, the biggest antenna, right, out there built. I've seen some guys out there build antennas like, well, some as much as like up to 100 foot long Yagi, like 3 wavelengths long, and is that good? Does that make sense? Like, is that? I know it's awesome to see, but does it make sense? Is that a good antenna? Would that out talk everybody because it's the biggest antenna? Or is there a point where the antenna could be too big for the application? And we'd say, what's the application in this case? Talking DX, talking on the bowl or on on the CB bands. Who are you talking to, right? So let's analyze this. So a antenna that size, let's say 100 foot long, is about 3 wavelengths, and 3 wavelengths is going to translate to a certain amount of dB gain and also a certain amount of beam width. And the two types of beam widths, the vertical beam width and the horizontal beam width, but it's the horizontal beam width that is of concern. So where you get your gain, of course, is you're narrowing your beam width both vertically and horizontally, and that's where you get your gain of your antenna, right? So you get more and more gain at the expense of narrowing. I say expense because you're losing your coverage area, right? You're narrowing your coverage area. And at that size of an antenna, you're down to about 15 degrees with 3 wavelength long antenna. You're down to about 15 degrees. And now let's say you had a station on the West Coast in California, let's say, in the middle of California, and you want to talk to stations on the East. Well, imagine, okay, you're faced just due east. Well, you're too narrow. You have too narrow of a beam width to talk to stations up in the north, like New York station up there. But also, you're too narrow to even talk to the southern states down, like in Florida. So you actually aren't blanketing as much of an area that you really should be, and you're going to appear kind of down for most of the areas, right? So my conclusion is in this example is that yes, the antenna can be too big, and you want to kind of make it wide enough to where it's usable. And one thing I noticed in the CB world is that that they're doing in the ham world, but CB world's not really doing it. Which I think would be a better way to do this, is to stack beams vertically and smaller beams vertically. What that does is, for example, instead of one 100-foot long beam, you'd have two 50-foot long beams stacked vertically. That would be better, and it would perform better. And here's why. Okay, the dB gain would be similar. dB gain in both cases would be close. But the difference would be that in the stacked beam example, your vertical beam width would be narrowed, but not the horizontal beam width. That's where the gain is coming from. It's crunching down the vertical beam width by half, but the horizontal would be maintained around 30 degrees or so, or wider. And that would be the better way to go. So I think that's something I don't really see a lot of the people on the bowl and stuff doing as much, which I think that's something they could be doing, which would work better. I'm not sure why. It's far better than doing one giant antenna. So, I mean, that's one of the things you'll see in ham radio, for example, like, you'll see like in 2 meters, like a 17B2. Man, you turn that antenna just a couple degrees, just the left to the right, and you can't even hear anybody. It's great, right, in the one direction you're pointed, but it depends on the application. If I'm pointed straight, trying to talk somewhere really far, sure, that works in the direction I'm pointed, but not for stations too far off to the sides, and definitely not behind and all that stuff. So you're actually better off with a lower gain antenna and covering a wider area for this type of scenario. That's my suggestion. So anyway, guys, take care. I'm out.